This is why it's so great to make friends while you're here with one another, because I have science writer friends that I call when I'm in a panic before I call my editor, and I tell them, oh, I don't know what I'm going to do. What do I do? And we walk each other through it. So that was wonderful. Thank you guys so much for having me. Anna, thank you. Dan, thank you. Thank you to the SHRP community. It's always great to come back and to meet new faces and find out what you guys are working on. So my name's Roxanne Khamsi. I am going to give a talk today about finding sources for your science stories. How do you connect with the people that will inform your pieces to make them as accurate and engaging as possible? Navigating all the possibilities out there in the web these days is can be tough. And so by sources, I'm really going to focus today on people and so how you connect with the people, the scientists, the patients, folks like that. So, oh, and I should also say a disclaimer. I am a health journalist, so for the last 20 years I've been writing health stories. Somebody asked me, oh, why not environment? Well, I think it was just like luck. I landed in a job that was health, and I just kept going in that direction. I've done maybe 2 space stories in my whole career. And, we can talk about how we might apply these tools to those, but hopefully there'll be some parallels that you can see. So I'm going to show an image here. Oh, not that one. This one. So anyone here want to say what this is called, the brand name of this item? Yeah, it's a Rolodex, so I'm very impressed you guys know. Because you don't see them much around, but when I got my first job, 20 years ago, I bought one of these. I put it on my desk and I was like, this is how I'm going to get all my contacts. I'm going to put their business cards in here. I'm going to scribble their names on scrap pieces of paper, and it's going to be just really full of things. And it just lay there empty because the world had just recently become much more digitized, and I was finding everything online. It wasn't quite Alta Vista days, but it was just the beginnings of Google, if you'll believe it. And so then I started a Word document, and I would put my sources in there. I'd put keywords. So as you're starting out, you might want to build a document or organize your sources in a way where you can go back to people. I'd tag them neuroeconomics or genetics. And I'd have a section for societies, which often people don't really think to go to, but it was like I'd had the American Heart Association. I'd call them all the time because I was writing a lot about heart health. Or the National Institute of Mental Health. I'd have their press contact there. So don't be shy to put the names of people that you've reached out to before. You can also look them up on your email, I guess, these days, but back then it was a little harder. Whatever way you have organized your sources, have a way. Oftentimes also if you're working on a longer feature, you're going to have a fact checker who's going to say, can you send me all the names of your contacts? So that's a nice way to do it. So anyway, it's a bunch of preamble. So it's 2025. How you found sources 10 years ago is different from how you do it today, how it is going to be 10 years from now. But let's just imagine you got an assignment, or as a freelancer, you got an idea for a story. How do you find scientific sources to speak with? You're not going to use this, that's for sure. Okay, so I'm going to run down in the first section some foundation stuff, some fundamentals with like low-hanging fruit you guys probably have some familiarity with. And I'm going to do it with a hypothetical. So because I like to use a real-world example that we can like really work with. And I chose, because it's my talk, I get to choose what we're going to use as a hypothetical. I'm personally fascinated right now by weight loss drugs and how they relate to addiction. So you guys might have heard of Ozempic, these GLP-1 receptor antagonists. And they are being increasingly looked at as tools against substance use disorders. So to help people with addiction to alcohol or cannabis like that. So I'm really fascinated by this, and I thought we'd just walk through with this example. And so, you might look at a press release, for example, and see that there is a university contact there. Pretty easy peasy, you contact the university contact. Or if you want to kind of just get directly to the researcher, you might click on the paper. So I've pulled up a paper on this topic. And the reason I pulled it up is because I just want to, if there's one thing you remember from this talk today, it's probably not the most sophisticated thing for me to tell you, but go to the PDF, because the PDF has so much more information than the HTML. And I've seen this more and more and more through the last 2 to 3 years, 4 years or so. So, here it is. If I went to this page, you expand author affiliations, and you're like, oh man, that stinks. Nobody's email address is there. And then you kind of go make a cup of coffee and think about what am I going to do next? Well, you can just click on download the PDF. And I swear to God, I didn't do this on purpose, but this PDF is amazing for reasons to be revealed shortly, and not just because it has an email address. So hopefully it will download. Please don't not download now. Okay, well, Okay, here we go. Fantastic. It's not only does it have much more stuff for you, it's more beautiful. So you're looking at a beautiful document. And you're going to scroll down and you're going to see, oh, look, I actually can find, I don't know if you can see, there's the Christian Hendershot's email is there. So you can copy and paste that. So that's nice. And if you're on deadline, you might want to copy that, you might want to reach out to the corresponding author and the university contact at the same time if you're pressed for time or if you're having a hard time reaching them. And then the thing I really like about this paper is, oh, and by the way, when you're a freelancer, I just want to mention in this talk that when you're reaching out to sources, there's a couple elements that I strongly suggest you include in that initial email, which is going to be brief. And that is, you're going to tell them first, like, who you are. If you've published somewhere before, great, we can mention that. And I find it's really useful to mention the paper that you're emailing them about and why you think it's interesting and newsworthy, and also tell them where you're going to place it, because they want to know you're not just talking to them for fun. You want to have a plan that you can show them. I think as a freelancer particularly, it's very key to kind of show that you've got, you're going to make good use of their time. And don't include more than 1 or 2 questions. That's a rule that I have for myself. And of course, you're going to have your, I don't know if there's like feedback on this mic, but you're going to have your contact information in the signature with your phone number and how to reach you and stuff like that. So anyway, so why am I so in love with this paper? Well, because the next point I was going to make is that we're going to get a little fancier now, and we're going to talk about other means of reaching sources. This paper, so I was going to suggest that you look at conferences. So oftentimes people overlook, okay, I want to write about Ozempic and substance use, but maybe this paper's already gotten coverage and I'm a freelancer and I want to find a new angle. Find a conference online, and this can work for any type of story you're reporting. Find a conference online where there's other people who are presenting related topics. And this was a gift I didn't even expect to find, but if you scroll down in this paper, not every paper has this, but there is a section here where it actually says the meetings it has been presented at. So I don't know if I can scroll over here and show you. So meeting presentation. Can you see it says, preliminary results of this study were presented at the 2020 College of Problems on Drug Dependence Annual Scientific Meeting, 2024, where I live now, Montreal. So I was very enthused. I was like, let's go there and find out what happened there. So I went there. And I skipped over to page 28. So you can see I've found a way to find more people that are familiar with this study and we're doing related studies on this topic. And I found page 28, by the way, by searching the name of the scientist who was on the original paper. So you'll see if you scroll down, Chris Hendershot has given a talk here, but also there's related scientists. So I really want to help you understand that you can find a seed and then see where else it grows from there. There's other people that are going to be doing interesting work around this topic, and conferences I think are completely often overlooked, but a great resource, because you don't have to go anymore to the conferences. You can plug in the hashtag for the conference on Twitter and see what was talked about at the meeting. You can go on YouTube and see, who else was giving a talk. All right, great. So the next thing I'm going to go to quickly is to talk about, this is a little bit fancier. How many people here might know about review articles? Raise your hand. Okay, so a couple people know. So review articles, if you go to PubMed, which I haven't talked a lot about, but people know I'm pretty obsessed with, it's PubMed.gov is a database online of studies. I think I have an example here actually next of you drop in whatever you're interested in, and you can search. You can find basic research articles, which is where people do an experiment, and then they say here are the findings. But you can also click on a tab that says review, which is also one of my favorite things to do, and then find scientists that have already done a giant survey of the literature. And if you're a freelancer, these people are great resources because they know the context, they know what's hot in the field that nobody's talking about. And they're often really eager to talk about it because they've got a review study with 124 references and haven't had an opportunity to talk to many people about. So again, here's an example just to show you where things are at these days, where you can see it's a review article with the review tag there. And again, once you see it again and you're like, oh no, but they forgot to put the email address, I want to reach out to them. So just click on the tab for the full paper and expand you don't have to go to the PDF in this case, but just expand this and you can find what you're looking for. So actually, you might have to go to the PDF in this case, but I won't bore you with it because you've already gotten the point. Let's see. Okay, and then another source I want to take you to, if we have time, which I think we have a couple more minutes, is this fantastic resource, clinicaltrials.gov. So anytime you start a clinical trial, you have to upload the information into clinicaltrials.gov. And so, and again, I ran with this idea of weight loss drugs and these GLP-1 receptor antagonists and addiction. I plugged in those terms into the search database on clinicaltrials.gov, and you scroll down and you say, okay, I want to find the contact here. Okay, so here you go. You have the coordinators for this clinical trial right there. Why is this so important? Because those people often will help you reach patients in the clinical trial. So sources are not just scientists. Sources are patients. They have lived experiences of the things that you're writing about and often really enrich the story and help you understand what it really is all about. So you can contact these people and say, hi, I'm writing a story. I'd like to interview the principal investigator. But also, once you connect with them, ask them to help you reach a patient. Obviously, there's other news stories you can look at that are in related topics and find sources within those. You can go to other press releases. You can go to the government agencies like the FDA, the CDC, the NIH. If you go to them, I recommend that you do it at the beginning of your reporting because it's ever increasingly difficult to actually connect with people in those agencies. Things have just gotten really hard. And so I always, as soon as I get an assignment, if I have to reach somebody at the FDA, I will email the press office there directly and get that going. So societies are also really important. This is something I hinted at the beginning. But if I was reporting the story on Ozempic and addiction, I would reach out to the Obesity Society. And again, things that have changed from 10 years ago, they used to have their press contacts right up on a page on the websites, but now you have to search in their database of press releases in the past. So that's what I did here, and you can find the contacts there. They'll put you in touch with their chief scientific officers and things like that. Last quick note before I wrap up, this section is about things that really didn't exist when I had that Rolodex, and it has to do with social media and different sources. So LinkedIn, if you wanted to, let's say, for example, with this particular hypothetical, you wanted to write about Ozempic, but you were doing an investigative piece or trying to find a new angle, and you wanted to find somebody that had left Novo Nordisk, which is the company that makes Ozempic, you could go on LinkedIn and find a way to search for people that had left the company. So that's a really good way to, I don't know if you've ever been in that situation where you want somebody who's able to speak a little bit more freely, go to LinkedIn and navigate with that search parameter. I'm sure this is not news to you guys, but you can use social networks to find people. I did this a lot during the pandemic. You can just put the search terms in to find new papers that will be authored by academics or industry folks that you want to reach out to. And then the last three are a little bit more unusual. I used YouTube about 10 years ago to find, and I would still recommend you go to YouTube, to find a patient with a rare metabolic disorder that I wrote about in a long feature. And she was just doing like a patient testimonial, and I found her name, and then I searched her online, found her another way, and she was a great source. We actually went to have lunch not that far from here, and it was a whole thing about like what she could eat and what she couldn't. So it was wonderful to learn about her story, and I would never have found her if I hadn't searched on YouTube. And then the last two things I'll mention, obviously Facebook. I spent a lot of time in the pandemic. I was reporting a story on people that were testing positive for a long time, and I ended up going to Facebook to long COVID groups and connected with people for my stories in that way. Obviously be very respectful of these groups when you're reaching out to them. These patients have been through a lot, and you want to navigate that with a lot of care. The last thing I'll mention, this is just last month, I was working on research for my book, and I wanted to find a source with a particular rare disorder, and I connected with a family through GoFundMe, which I think is a commentary in and of itself of the health system, but that's another resource for finding sources that I would never in my wildest dreams have imagined 10 or 15 years ago, but has come in handy. So hopefully these are all new, or some of these are new tools in your toolbox to reach sources, and it's a fun search, and don't spend too long on it. Do get on the phone would be my last piece of advice. Thank you so much.